All right, so say the same thing. We're going to use Korg for our counter melodies, and we'll still create baseline also. Create the baseline, counter melodies, supporting melodies. So, of course, it's best to keep it simple. We don't need to have like too many melodies running all around the place. So let's go with a flute this time. I love flutes. Flutes and saxophones are some of my favorite instruments. Okay. So while it's playing, you can just hover around. If you have any melody ideas, a simple way to get your melodies out, if you're not familiar with forming chords, you can turn on the ghost channel in the main chord progression here. If yours is not turned on, you simply come here, helpers, ghost channels, or click alternate V. You see it's gone and it's back. So you just create melodies by simply sticking, for starters, when you're a beginner, you just simply stick to this chord, these gray lines you are seeing here, and keep it very simple, very, very simple. You don't need too many notes running all around the place. Keep it very simple. So let's see the kind of melodies we can create with this flute. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So we don't need to fill up the place with melodies. It's really that simple. We just get simple notes up there and you get your melodies out of the way. So now okay, I prefer you have independent channels. So you create a new pattern, create find first empty. You can rename it if you like, but I don't have that time. So I'll just paste it here, hold my shift key and my left mouse to drag it out. And so let's add one more counter melody before we add our bass line. We don't need to have this choked up with melody. So then again, we'll still use triton. I prefer using triton because there's so many sounds in triton that you can just use, and it's really light on your PC. You see my CPU is barely moving and my RAM so it's just about barely 300 MB. Very light on your PC. But it might take a little time to load, but once it loads, like it's very light on your PC. So let's pick out, let's say, what kind of sound do we need now? Let's say a saxophone. Let's see what we can get from a saxophone. So we can come back to the main chord progression again and use the ghost notes to create a counter melody or a supporting melody. I don't like that melody. So Let's just try this and see. It's hiding the flutes. We don't want it to hide the flutes. Pam 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 pam. Okay, well, I don't think a sax is what we need right now. Let's pick out another instrument. So we'll look for what sound now can complement what we're doing. Let's pick out strings. I like the sound. So yeah, I think that melody is fine. So we just simply stick within the gray lines. That is easiest way you can form melodies, and make sure your melody does not collide. Like you can hear both these sound I just selected and the flute earlier. So that's one of the key things to creating melodies. You pick simple melodies that are very very catchy, so that the artist also can jump on it. Like the artist can really sing easily on it. So I think after this, we just need to add a pad and a bass line, then we'll be done. A pad is just kind of like it creates space, it creates more of that elated feeling, and the bass line adds some body to it, some groove to it. So let's get a pad or a spread out string. So let's see, of course, Korg Triton once again. This is not sponsored by Korg at all. This is just, I just love the VST. Well, I wish I was sponsored by Korg. That would be nice, wouldn't it? So let's look for pads. Let's look for pads. Let's see what's here. This vocal. Yeah, I think we can use that as pads. Pads kind of have that dreamy atmospheric feel, like it sounds lush, kind of like a string, but It sounds more like it's in the background if you listen. So let's just listen to it with the pads and see how it sounds like. So just duplicate it and listen. So we turn it down a little. So now we add our bass line. Let's get some bass out of this. We need a little bit of bass. So, but for this bass, we'll not be using Triton, we'll be using Purity. Purity is another lightweight VST that surely won't drag your PC, even lighter than Cog. But I love the bass. I typically go to it for my bass for any of my beats I'm making that requires like this sort of bass that's not an 808. I prefer this bass. Like he has this roundness and at the same time he has the tone. I love the tone of the bass. So you can use Purity for your bass or any similar sounding VST that has a good bass. So it's all about that bass, no treble. Hope I don't get copyright strike for that. So we'll create our bass. Same thing, we'll come here, stick to the progression to create our bass line. So we just have one simple bass line. You can have more than one bass line for your song. It depends on the needs. And while we start structuring out the song, we may say need to create more bass line along the way. But for now, we'll create just one bass line and then we'll see how it sounds from there. So let's get started. All right, so that's nice. That's a nice bass line there. That's nice. And depends on the kind of bass you have. You may not want it to overlap like this, so you can trim it out. You just make sure it doesn't overlap because some bass might sound funny when they overlap each other. Some sound nice when they overlap, some sound weird when they overlap. So to be safe, just take it out. So we'll cut this and go to pattern 7. That is our empty pattern waiting for us, and we'll paste it there. And we have our bass line. All right, so now we're going to structure it out, like create the intro, the verse, the chorus, the bridge, if any, and the outro. And then we'll see how it's going to sound like and if we need to add more instruments or take out some instruments. So let's see how that sounds like.